Hi friends, I'm Jeffy G. Welcome back to the show. In this episode, we're going to tackle a sensitive topic. Glaze 2 came out a few weeks ago. It's great, it's awesome, I love these products. But it's positioned as kind of a vocal alternative. And Native Instruments has other applications that do the same, especially in that Play series. So one concern that's got to cross your mind is, if I use Glaze 2, will other artists that are creating songs and compositions use the exact same sounds and patches? Will my song end up sounding like theirs? It's a legitimate concern, and we're going to address it in this video. First, I'm going to walk through what Glaze 2 is all about. Then I'm going to show you some techniques you can use to make your composition unique, so it's not obvious that you used Glaze 2. Let's get started. Now, I'm not sponsored by Native Instruments. I bought Glaze 2 just like you would. And by doing so, you'll hear my objective and honest review on how to use it, and use it smart. If you like what I have to say, click on the like button. Disagree, leave a comment. And consider subscribing to the channel, because that's what keeps me going. Now, like all my videos, I've divided this up into chapters in the description, so if you want to jump ahead to a particular part, be my guest. Here's an example of the problem. I wrote this song about 2 years ago when Glaze 1 first came out, and I was looking for some background vocals. So if you listen carefully, you may recognize the riff or run from Glaze 1. At the same time, my friend Jeff Gibbons, who runs a really excellent YouTube channel, Everything Native Instruments, so there you have it. We both used the same background vocals, and it is recognizable because it's a particular riff, and therein lies the problem. We coincidentally created compositions that sound quite similar. I'm in Logic, and I'm inclined to open up Glaze 2 in complete control. The reason I prefer that is that I can use the MIDI mapping of my controller keyboard, which happens to be an Ovation Launchpad 61. I don't have a S-Series new Native Instruments keyboard. So I might do a search for Glaze, find Glaze 2, and then just pull up one of the presets. And this is typically what you're going to see if you take a look at it yourself. I'm going to turn off the plugin. You'll see this A-B switch, which is common to all the Play series instruments. You've got an A sound and a B sound. You can turn them off or on by clicking on the A or the B. You can control the balance between the A and the B. Knob down here. So here's the sound. It's vocal-like. If I turn off B, you can hear just A. They're similar. What you're choosing from in each preset is an assortment of sounds. If you click on, say, the A sound, you'll see they're organized into different groups here. There are lots of synthesizer sounds, and you've got runs and riffs in here, vowels like ah or o, and then you've got riffs in a particular key. So let's say we choose this riff in A. Just move the balance all the way to A. We can choose some other riffs here. Here's one in C# minor. So riffs and runs are the most vocal-like things that are built into Glaze, and these are actually the problematic areas, because when you use these in your recording, they are specific to a particular key. So if I've chosen C# minor, it's in C# minor, and you can't actually change the key within Glaze, but I'm going to show you some tricks on how you can do it. This is the concern, is that you choose, say, a riff like this one, CB riff in E minor. And somebody else uses almost that exact same riff. Now, if I add the header, which is common to all contact instruments, I can choose presets without having to go back to the library, and you'll see they're organized here. There's some great bass sounds. There are some great chord sounds. Just choose one of these. can see that one is key specific as well. Some good keyboard sounds. This one is polyphonic. Now for a lot of these presets that don't make extensive use of the riffs and runs, you really don't have any concerns about somebody else using that sound. So most of the presets are not going to be a problem as far as your use of them being replicated by somebody else. Here's a pad. You can see I'm modifying the sound by tweaking the encoders on my MIDI controller to get something unique. And like all Play Series instruments, once I've modified a sound, I can save it with the snapshot capabilities, which is this little camera-like thing up here. Oh, there are sequenced sounds. Let's just say we start with a really basic sound with really not much in it. We'll turn off B and we'll just look into A, and I'll again bring up the areas of our greatest concern. So these are programmed sounds in a key. Ums. And I would say even with those, you have a little concerned about it being recognized. It's when you get into these riffs and runs. Let's just record that. And that might be something that other people have used in their song. What you're seeing in the MIDI is just the trigger notes. So back to the instrument. These are the danger areas, I would say. Executing a sample riff or run. Even those vowel sounds are probably not problematic because melodies that you play may not be the same as anybody else. Gentle speech. Even that one, someone might recognize the patch, but if you've got that combined with a pad or some keyboards, it's not going to be so common that other people may have used the exact same sound. I'm not going to go into great detail about the Play Series instruments because there's lots of demos on that. There is this main page where you can pick your A and your B sound, and then you can modify those sounds with all of these parameters. So you can modify layer A with transposition, tuning, pan, volume, and you can do all the same with B. Each one has its own modulation capabilities, so you've got ADSR and amplification options to modify the cutoff frequencies. There's lots of ways to change the intonation of each one of these parts. So that would be modifying the sound. Then there are effects that you can apply, and you can drag and drop these effects in any order that you like. But essentially, you're creating two effects chains for each one of those sounds. You starting with EQ for A and an EQ for B. And then you can actually save that effects chain and retrieve effects chains. And at first you think, okay, do I need that? Well, yeah, you'll find that when you have a series of effects for a sound and you don't want to lose it, you're going to want to save it. And then you've got this pretty good sequencer actually. And again, with the sequencer, you can save sequences and load sequences. You can actually change the pitch of some of the notes and modify the velocities. Of course, if you have zero velocity, you're not going to hear some of those notes. I won't go into great detail about the sequencer, but it has one feature that I think needs to be acknowledged is this root key and scale. So you can choose the scale. So you could say, okay, this is going to be in D minor, and every note that you play in that sequence will comply D minor, which is kind of cool. Most sequencers outside of the Native Instruments world and outside of the Play Series instruments don't have that root key and scale capability, so that's pretty cool. And then you can assign macros. Now the macros do come pre-assigned for a lot of the patches, but you can create your own macros to do any of these modulation effects down here. So that's all standard stuff in any Play Series instrument. Glaze 2 is no different. But one thing I will draw your attention to is under settings, the key range for the layers will come into play. For example, layer A has a key range of C1 to C2, which is the lower notes. And what you'll find is that a lot of the riffs and runs are in that lower key range. And they don't extend past C2, whereas the B layer is typically more synth sounds, and the range will go from C2 or C sharp 2 all the way up to the end of the keyboard. I've already covered a lot of tips throughout this video, but I'm just going to take a few more extreme steps. So with Glaze, you can kind of use it as a sample source. I'm using this preset and I've recorded some riffs. And I can't change the key of those riffs. That's the first thing that you might want to do. Well, depending on your DAW, you can bounce that as an audio file. So here, I'm going to bounce in place in Logic, and that's going to create an audio file and muting out the original. And in Logic, you can hold down the Option key and press the arrow keys up or down to change the pitch. I raise this. So that's going to sound different than anybody else's, but you've still got those phrases in the order. So another option you can do to add to that would be to maybe use the quick sampler and chop up that audio. So if I click on slice here, I've got and by slicing that, I can actually record my own version of that loop. And that's just one way to make your composition unique. Another option would be to add vocal effects from another source. So let's say, I won't go into anything fancy here, but use the Logic multi-effects. And I could choose a preset here. There's some rhythmic ones, scooped. That almost sounds like a guitar, a wah-wah guitar, but it's actually based on the samples in Glaze. Those are just a few examples of how you can start with Glaze, modify the sound to make it your own. The easiest modifications you can make to the sound are some basic rules like you can start with a preset, but don't use a preset. So change the A and the B parts. Click on the A part, find a different riff, click on the B part, and maybe pick a different synth sound. You'll find that by combining and making your own presets, you're going to get something that nobody else is really using. But make use of all the encoders here at the bottom by modifying those sounds, and don't leave it as it was delivered. If you're a user of Glaze 1 or Glaze 2 and you found this video useful, maybe a different perspective, click on the like button. Consider subscribing to the channel. Leave some comments. I always appreciate your feedback. And thanks for watching. Tune in again.